Hey guys, you've joined us on Moneycontrol Live. I'm Manisha Gupta and the spotlight today is on wheat, where we are looking at limited supplies but good demand expectations ahead of the festival season. If you look at the data that the government has put out, on the 1st of August, the government stock stood at around 28.3 million tons. There are reports suggesting that the flour mills do not have enough availability of wheat there, and the possibility is that the government could be cutting 40% of import duty as of now is something that has been in the works for a very long time, but we yet are to hear about that. What is the wheat prices situation likely to be going forward, and where do we see availability? To answer all of those questions, we are now joined by our guest. Ajay Goyal is director at Shivaji Flour Mills. Ajay, hi, thank you so much for joining us. First of all, on the wheat prices itself, and this year clearly has been on the bullish side for prices. Where do we stand right now? What kind of gains are we calculating for this year?
So right now we are, taking a breather at about 25, 25.50, and most of the markets are almost at a standstill, awaiting government intervention. Sorry, in terms of import duty reduction, and the government seems to be playing the game, very with their cards very close to the chest. And this has been in the offing since almost like 4 weeks now. But they're just talks, and sometimes we hear of government-to-government trade taking place, or private would be allowed at a reduced import duty of 0%. But that's just holding the market for the moment because the demand is also not very high. And once the festive season actually kicks in, we will really know what is the supply side and whether it can match up to whatever demand is created in the market at that time.
Ajay, I want to take a step back, and we do understand that the latest number that the government put out in sense of wheat crop also is much higher than what trade believes it to be. Is there a consensus now, and what number are you working with?
So I think the real number will be known at the end of the season, but definitely the government's numbers are much on the higher side, and it could be about 15 to 20% lower than what the actually government has come out at the start of the season. So it is around 90 plus minus 5 million is what trade is now estimating it at.
The government stock, how would you look at that at 28 million tons plus? And, the point that the trade is discussing is that government has enough buffer stocks when it comes to rice and wheat both. But even with that, we've seen prices continue to hold firm.
So I think it's just like on thin ice, the government, we just need that about 3 to 5 million tons extra to keep the market steady and fulfill the requirement. Because we are working with the hypothesis that the crop would be around 100 million, whereas everybody feels that it's much shorter than that. And on paper, we could just see through the year. But then again, when there is insecurity about whether we will get it in November, December, January, February, which are the lean months, the market can be erratic. And it is up to the government to ensure the supply side, because they seem to be having about 8 to 10 million tons of surplus. And if they release it in decent quantities, as the demand keeps picking up, the markets could be quiet. But there seems to be a gap of 3 to 5 million tons in the overall scheme of things in this year.
And the 40% import duty, I know we've been talking about that for a month and more now, with an expectation that the notification could come in this week or the next week, but it clearly seems to be a game right now. But what is your sense? Because if that opens up, then there wouldn't be an issue really. What is the government waiting for?
No, so I do not know what the government has been waiting for, but definitely the government has alternate plans of import, either through directly their own account or reducing the duty. And that has been amplified well by the government in the past 5 or 6 weeks, whenever there have been trade meets, that the government is open to allowing imports at lower rates of duty to keep the supply side fulfilled. But I guess the government would push it through a bit more and just press that red button only when it seems imminent that we cannot take care of our needs because of various other reasons. But the government is slowly but surely increasing the allocation in the OMSs also. But trade is still awaiting. What is keeping the markets in leash right now is ultimately the government will allow imports with reduced duty, or bring in wheat on their own account and fulfill the market requirement. There is the hope. The markets are silent right now. It's with that hope.
How would you look at the global situation as well? I was reading reports yesterday on how there is going to be lesser wheat globally. There were reports on how pasta is going to get expensive, etc. How would you look at those markets?
So definitely the position is not as good in this year as it was in the previous year. Like world ending stocks are going to be not that high, and also the weather worries for the future continue to play on the minds of the global situation. But as far as India is concerned, we are just about 3 or 4 million tons short, and that can easily be recouped. And if so it's all on hope that we will have a good season next year, and or a year after that. In the next 1 or 2 years we'll be able to build in a buffer, but the next 1 or 2 years we will have to have some sort of imports into the country at whatever timing the government chooses.
And that is also if the weather plays fine, right? Because the way we are right now with the El Nino expected until month of Feb, the conditions for the Rabi crop also could be slightly jittery there. Final question really, what's your sense then on your price move? Even if the government does come out with 3 to 5 million tons in the market, there is going to be that festival demand as well. So availability and your price sense going forward.
So I think what can take us by surprise is, if we have the demand really coming in through. Right now, the demand is low. But if you have like a good demand this season, anywhere from 5 to 7% a spurt could come within a week, because, supply lines are shrinking day by day. And the additional stock, whichever is there in the system as far as the open market or trade is concerned, will now only come up with an additional 5 or 7% rise in prices is what the trade feels. But right now, we are just on a hand-to-mouth basis, just a passing time, waiting for the government to act either in terms of increased allocation to millers or reduction in duty, so that there's a cap on the upside. And we know that the highest level once import opens up will be around 26, 27 down south, or 28. So that will keep, and then we will have some more additional selling in the local market. So that's the scenario right now.
All right, so a lot of uncertainties, and as you mentioned, Ajay, there's going to be 3 things to watch out for. One is going to be the weather, second, the demand, and third, most importantly, on what government really starts to do here is going to be a deciding factor going forward. Ajay, as always, thank you so much for joining us on Moneycontrol and talking everything that is wheat.
How do world leaders view India?
I've long believed that the relationship between the United States and India is will be one of the defining relationships of the 21st century.
The bright spot of the global economy.
The growth rate for India, which is 6.8 in 2022. Let's not forget, this is one of the bright spots in the global economy right now, such a high growth rate.
The potential of India is enormous, and you have now a reformer, a radical reformer, who has the ability to transform it.
On the verge of a big transformation.
इस अमृत काल में हमारे संकल्पों की सिद्धि हमें आजादी के 100 वर्ष तक ले जाएगी.
A magnet for investment.
I'm actually incredibly excited about the future of India. I think India has more promise than any large country in the world.
The world is bullish on India. Moneycontrol is bullish on India. Join the campaign. Tweet to us with #MC Bullish on India.